to say something right now that might sound a little bit radical, but stay with me. If you currently have ME/CFS, long COVID, fibromyalgia, one of these types of conditions, chances are you are completely capable of exercise right now. Chances are, from my experience and so many of the people that I've talked to, your body right now is actually fine. Now, I'm not saying that if you are facing one of these conditions that you should get up and go run a marathon right now, because you are absolutely sick and you have very real symptoms and something is causing them. What I am saying is that chances are your body physically can do it. Your body is still capable, fully capable of exercise, just like it was before you got sick. And doing exercise wouldn't actually cause any harm to your physical body. So just because you can exercise, let's say it is physically safe, your body is capable of doing it even while facing these conditions, does that mean that you should do it? And virtually every person that I've interviewed about their recovery, exercise has been an essential part of them getting well. It absolutely was with my own recovery as well. The key is that there is a very specific and unique and unusual way that people go about it when they are successful with it. Because if you don't have the right approach, there's a really good chance that it's going to make you feel worse. It could set you back. It could put you into a big crash. It could bring on a whole world of problems. But when done correctly, when done according to a very specific formula or plan, people really find that it helps them to work on getting their health back. So in this video, I'm going to explain exactly what is happening there. So what is this situation where your body's capable of exercise, but yet somehow can't do it? And I'm going to explain why this is happening and then walk you through step by step how you can approach this in a safe way that will help you to get better. A good way to start to understand all of this is to look at what was happening for us when we first got sick. So many people I talk to tell me in the comments if this resonates, if this was your situation as well, but you went from being very active, having a very full life, you might have worked out, you might even done extreme sports, you might have been an athlete, you might have run marathons, you might have done powerlifting, an extreme skier, all different sorts of things people have told me. And then almost as if overnight, you get to a place where you can barely walk up a single flight of stairs. I went from running 10 kilometers a day to almost always never being able to walk to the end of my block, to my mailbox. So what's happening there? We were physically fine, our bodies were somewhat strong and healthy, and then just almost instantly, we can no longer exercise. Our bodies are not capable of it. And then we go to the doctor, we get all these tests done, the tests come back normal, they're telling us that we're fine, our body is fine. Many of them are telling us to go out and exercise, and then we do, just with the old way that we normally would have tried to exercise, and we feel so much worse. It is as if our body is broken, as if something is horribly wrong in our physical body. And we really start to internalize this, and we really start to believe it. Our body is broken, we cannot exercise, exercise makes us worse, therefore, just never exercise. Move as little as possible. Stay in bed all day long if you can. Just rest and rest and rest and wait for this to go away. A new understanding that many people are having with these sorts of illnesses is that the reason that all of these tests are coming back normal is because your body actually is fine. Many people are viewing this completely differently than we used to. You'll hear many people saying things like, people I've had on this channel, things like, this actually isn't an illness. You aren't ill. You aren't sick. And I know by saying that, that just sounds so invalidating. And right now you probably want to turn off the video or leave me some not so nice comment. But nobody, or at least none of these people, certainly not me, aren't saying that your symptoms aren't very real, that you aren't feeling incredibly sick, that you don't have this whole list of really terrifying symptoms that you don't understand and they're very confusing and they are preventing you from having any kind of quality of life. All that is very real. Everything that you're experiencing is 100% real. It's just that they're not happening in your body the way that you think that they are. All right, so let's go back to how we are understanding this. First, we looked at what happened when we first got sick. We were really quite reasonably healthy and active and strong, and then suddenly we weren't. Suddenly we were weak. We can't even sit up in bed. So what's happening there? To really understand it, we have to zoom out a little bit further even and look at the bigger picture of the perfect storm that likely contributed to when all these symptoms started. If you look at the interviews on this channel, interview after interview after interview, people are saying that They thought it was that initial trigger. That's what made them sick, whether it was a virus or something stressful or some kind of trauma, something in their life, some mold exposure, heavy metals, whatever it might be. And that was what made them sick. But then in time, they start to understand it better and they see that there were a lot of things leading up to this, that it was something that actually started long before the day they started feeling symptoms. So maybe you were living a life of with a lot of stress. Maybe you're juggling multiple jobs or working crazy hours. Maybe you're pushing yourself too hard at the gym. When I got sick, I had been for years either working 2 jobs or going to school and working, or working and going to school in the evenings, and working out 6 days a week often, sometimes 2 to 3 hours a day. I was a really over-exerciser. I had a lot of anxiety. I had self-esteem issues. I was always on edge, always trying to prove myself, always exhausted, didn't take care of myself. And then I got a virus and then it just never got better. And it was like, what is this mystery virus that did this to me? But I can see now kind of the perfect storms of things leading up to this. So I had more or less a healthy body, a strong body. But when that virus came, something was happening in my brain, in my nervous system, and that was just sort of the final straw. And chances are, this might have been the case for you as well, that your brain, your nervous system had been sending you warning signals for a very long time. It might have started with some little whispers, and then in time it started yelling at you. But we've come to live this life where we just have normalized ignoring those warning signals. We don't even listen to them. In time, we don't even know that they're there. And then our body, which is trying to protect us, which is trying to keep us alive, it's telling us what it needs. We're not listening. So eventually it just sort of shuts us down. Like, think about our bodies and the environments that they evolved to thrive in. It looked nothing like the one that we live in today. All of this technology, this modern world, that is not what evolution equipped us for. So our bodies are perceiving all of these threats, as Blue is right now, checking out who's at the door. And it is kind of on overdrive. So our brain, our nervous system, which we talk about a lot, that fight or flight or fight, flight, freeze or fawn, it's there to protect us from that bear in the woods. But now the bear in the woods is, someone in the hallway. It's traffic, it's the news, it's your boss, it's social media, it's, working 2 jobs and all of that. And our body wants to keep us alive, and it's perceiving these threats everywhere. And it's sending us these messages like it's too tired, it's not getting the care it needs, we're chronically sleep deprived, we probably aren't eating very well, and we're just not listening to the messages that it sends us. So if you picture us in the environment that we evolved to thrive in, our brain, our nervous system is thinking we're a lot safer if we're stuck in our cave and can't go anywhere than we are going out into the world. Because you wonder, why would my brain, why would my nervous system make me sick? And it's a protection mode. It's perceiving threats everywhere. And it's not rational and it's not logical when we look at it in our current context, because social media isn't actually trying to kill us, but our brain isn't trying to be rational. It's trying to protect us. It's trying to keep us alive. Blue has found a very loud toy. I'm so sorry. I think we're going to have to take that one away. Hold on while I find him something quieter. A swap? Okay. All right, where were we? Yes, we've been pushing through life, having stress everywhere, burning the candle at both ends, thinking we're invisible, using coffee and sugar and alcohol and drugs and whatever else we can come up with to try and push through and keep going, and thinking kind of what's the worst that can happen. But then something does happen. It's a virus, it's a car accident, it's a death in the family, is a major stress to the body, and it's sort of the final straw. And the body just says, enough. We're going into full-on survival mode now. And here's where exercise comes in, and why not abandoning it completely is so important, and why finding ways to safely incorporate it is actually a massive key to getting yourself healthy and getting rid of all these symptoms that are being triggered in your body. Blue, come here. Okay, so let's look at that big picture again, shall we, Blue? Many people now believe with these illnesses, what is happening is that our brain and our nervous system are trying to protect us, that our bodies are actually okay, but our brain and nervous system are perceiving virtually everything in the world as threat. And that our brain and our nervous system, they're not broken, they're not dysregulated. It is a perfectly natural and normal response to a very abnormal environment. So there's a little bit of training that has to happen here. And we have to build some trust in it, and we have to show our brain, create those new neural pathways, show our nervous system that life actually is safe and that we aren't as reckless as it seems like we are, and we aren't on the verge of extinction at any given moment, and that it's okay, and that it can ease up on these symptoms and stop trying to protect us and let us out of the cave so we can get back to our lives. So gentle exercise with my own recovery was a massive piece of what helped me recover. And as I was going through it, I didn't fully understand it. But now that I have talked to so many people and done so much more research, I really have a better sense of why it was vital in my recovery. And it's been vital in the recoveries of so many people that I've talked to on this channel. Okay, Squirty, you're going down. Exercise and movement has been vital in some element in virtually all the recovery stories that I've done, even the very severe cases. I interviewed an amazing guy named Michael on the channel. He was bedbound, very severe ME/CFS, and he explained in his interview, I can link it here, that he, without exercise, without consistent gentle movement, he never would have got, although he's not fully recovered, he's come a long way, to a point where he can sit and do interviews with me, and he's written a book and just doing some amazing things. Also, Toby Morrison from CFS Health. Years into my sickness, or to my being unwell, I read a book by him. I don't think it's still in print, but his was the first recovery story I'd ever heard of. And in it, he talked about how a very gradually increasing gentle exercise program, what is happening back there, was a big part of what helped him to recover. I also interviewed a woman named Sophie on this channel who had severe ME/CFS, and for her, that incorporating that movement, that exercise, she credits as the biggest thing that helped her to recover. And this may seem confusing because we're talking about brain training these days. It's hard to talk about long COVID or ME/CFS recovery and not talk about brain training. And you think, well, if brain training is the answer, or a big part of the answer, then why does exercise matter? And it's because brain training and exercise are virtually inseparable. You can't do one effectively long-term without the other. Somebody turned 2 last week, which is why I decided that maybe he didn't have to be in his crate during videos, and that's one of his birthday presents. But he's making a lot of noise. What are you doing back there? Anyways, where were we? One of the reasons that brain training is so successful with recovery from these sorts of conditions for many people is that it's actually brain training, an element of it, that is causing the symptoms. So when we think of brain training, it's forming new neural pathways in the brain. So those automated, kind of autopilot things that fire in our brain. This happens, it triggers that. This happens, it triggers that. I talk about a lot, like thinking about your brain like a hill of sand, and you've got marbles going down different paths. And by doing brain training, you're trying to push that marble down a new path repeatedly, so that that new path becomes the new automated way that neuron, mixed analogies here. Hope this isn't getting too confusing. Am I making this harder to understand? We're trying to form new pathways in our brain. We're trying to let those old ones kind of blow over and no longer be in use, and have new, strong, automated ways that our brain and nervous system react to things. So when we get sick, that survival mechanism that's kicking in is starting to equate exercise, danger, leaving my house, danger, too much of any kind of exertion, danger, and it just becomes instant, and we become sort of experts at being sick because our brain just very quickly now interprets virtually everything in our environment as a threat. So it gives us those symptoms, it keeps us down, it keeps us in the cave, it's keeping us safe. So what does recovery look like knowing all of this? If you're sick with one of these conditions and you suspect, and your trusted team of healthcare professionals suspect, that taking some sort of approach that is addressing the brain-body connection, your autonomic nervous system, is going to be beneficial for you. Now, what do? The first step is education. The first step is doing exactly what you're doing right now. It's understanding how and why this is happening, and knowing and believing that your physical body is fine, that your physical body isn't ill, and that the symptoms that you're experiencing, no matter how severe and uncomfortable they are, actually aren't hurting you. This is all some sort of protective mechanism. So it's about showing the brain that it can ease up on these symptoms and that everything will be okay. So once you understand that, and watching videos like this is great, it's great to read books. There's a couple by Dr. John Sarno that are really good. The more that you can do to understand how and why all this is working, the easier it's going to make it for you to start working on your recovery and get yourself past this. I interviewed one guy named Nick on this channel, a really great guy over in Australia, and he had been really sick with CFS, with chronic pain, and he read Dr. John Sarno's one of his books, and as soon as he finished the book, he went outside and he chopped down a tree. And he went from barely being able to sit up, just really unwell, to chopping down a tree. And I don't advise, oh my goodness. I gotta grab this toy too. Sorry, Blue. But for Nick, it really demonstrates really clearly how that first step of understanding, trusting that his body was fine, and going out and testing it, started him on the path to becoming well. Now, most people, the vast majority of people say to start a lot more gradually than that. It worked for Nick. I'm not saying that anyone else should try chopping down a tree when you're really unwell. So how you can approach this, if you want to slowly teach your brain and your nervous system that your body is fine, is by some sort of, oh my goodness.
What are you doing? Little guy, I think I'm gonna have to put you in your crate. I'm sorry. You're making too much noise.
Okay, I'm back. So he is in his crate, but not to worry, he really loves his crate. It's actually one of his favorite places. We've done really good training. He gets lots of treats, and he still gets to be with us, just a little bit quieter. So using exercise to aid your recovery typically involves a very gradual, some people call it gradual re-exposure therapy. It's, some people refer to it as pacing, gradually increasing your activity, small incremental amounts, and showing your brain and your body that it's safe. How I did it was through a very gradual, slowly increasing exercise program. I've talked about this a lot on this channel. I just started with 1 minute a day, or 1 minute every second day. And this was just me in my living room, maybe doing some gentle squats, maybe some push-ups off the wall, just something very light. And I do it for 1 minute. And then the next week, I would up it to 2 minutes. And I would do that a few times a week. And then the week after that, I would up it to 3 minutes. And as I went, initially that 1 minute or 2 minutes might cause a little bit of a symptom flare, and I might actually feel a little bit worse. But how I did it was I kept it within that manageable amount. So I was okay with it, I was at peace with it if it caused a little bit of a symptom flare, but not so much that the next day I still couldn't do my 1 minute of exercise again. If it caused me to feel so unwell that the next day I couldn't do my 1 minute, I knew it was too much and I had to scale it back. So this whole process went on like this for about a year. And each week, more or less, I added on 1 more minute of gentle exercise. And as the weeks and the months went on, I slowly started increasing the intensity of it. Then I moved into the weight room and started with probably 1 pound weights, which felt really silly as someone who used to work out a lot. But it wasn't about that weight building muscle. I'm in the gym and I'm doing bicep curls with my 1 pound weight, and it feels like what I'm doing in that moment is trying to strengthen that muscle. But what I'm actually doing is that gradual re-exposure therapy. I'm gradually teaching my body that physical activity is okay and then it's safe. And as I continued to do this, after about 1 year of this, I got up to doing hour-long workouts at the gym, doing strength training, and I could push as hard as I wanted to, go all out, and there was no post-exertional malaise, no symptom flares, nothing. But then I also found with every new activity I tried to do, I had to slowly introduce it and show my brain and body that it was safe. So I'm at this point where I'm doing hour-long intense workouts in the weight room, and I think, okay, I'm healthy, I'm good. I actually thought I was fully recovered at this point. And then I used to be a runner, so I decided I wanted to start running again. And running, even tiny amounts, was giving me those symptom flares and that post-exertional malaise. So I realized I wasn't fully recovered yet, and it was perplexing because how can I do an hour in the weight room, but I can't run for 2 minutes? But this was something new. And my, everything was trying to protect me, and this was potentially a threat. So I went through the same process all over again. And I did something very similar to the strength training. And I started with, I'd go out for 30 minutes at a time, and I'd do 1 minute running, 9 minutes walking, repeat. 1 minute running, 9 minutes walking. Do that for 30 minutes. And then the next week, I'd do 1 minute running, 8 minutes walking, repeat. And kept going and going until slowly I got up to a point where I could run 30 minutes straight. And then after that, I could run, for an hour straight. and I was good. Now, I didn't understand the brain training and the nervous system aspect of all of this when I was doing it. I just kind of stumbled on something that was working for me, so I kept at it. Had I understood all of these components and had all of these brain training activities accessible and available to me, I think I could have done this all a lot faster. I do have some old, probably pretty cringe-worthy exercise videos that I did, and I did one about my running program. I can link the playlist if you want to check it out. I don't think I could go back and watch them now, but some of them are actually pretty popular. So just some really, really gentle exercise ideas to get you started, to ease you back into this. I interviewed Miguel Batista from the Recovery Jumpstart program on this channel, and he talked about this process of exercise. And his program, as I understand it, is primarily brain training, but the exercise is woven in with all of it. And he tells the people that he works with to think about this like a healthy person going to the gym. We go to the gym, we work out, the next day we're sore. We don't freak out like, I'm sore, my body's broken, this is a crisis. We just accept it as a normal, albeit unpleasant, part of the whole working out process. So it's about coming to this place of acceptance and peace with your symptoms when you're doing this gradual exposure process with exercise as well. So the symptoms might pop up a little bit. I would say chances are you're probably not going to get through it without having some little symptom flares, but just not stressing about them, noting that they're there, not giving them a lot of attention, and accepting that, yeah, this is me getting better. This is the path to getting better, and this is what I'm going to go through, and it's okay. I interviewed neuroplasticity expert Ashok Gupta on this channel. I can link it here. I would highly recommend checking out his interview, packed full of really helpful stuff on this. And an important component of this that he explained when it comes to retraining your brain is that our brains are more neuroplastic when we are in a calm and happy state. So it's not only important to do this gradually, but also to have a sense of peace with it all and not be scared and stressed and anxious. Because if you come at this with a lot of stress and anxiety, it's just going to be triggering those alarm bells again. And your brain isn't going to be in the state that it needs to be to form those new pathways. The same thing can happen if you try and be overly rigid with this. I know a lot of us were kind of type A overachiever people before. We might have this plan of 1 minute a day and we have to stick to it. And if we don't, oh my goodness, the world is ending. Have a lot of flexibility with it. Sometimes it was every day, sometimes it was every second day for me. Sometimes the next week I wouldn't up it. I'm like, no, I'm feeling good at 3 minutes. I'm going to do this for 1 more week. It just feels what I'm safe with right now. Just have a lot of self-compassion with yourself while you're doing it. Pay close attention to that inner dialogue and how you're talking to yourself and what kind of kindness and love you're showing up for yourself with. How would you talk to someone, a friend, someone you cared about that you wanted to do well? Would you be hard on them? Would you be critical? Of course not. You would be supportive and kind and patient. So the main takeaway from all of this is that I believe in that many cases, not only can you exercise with these sorts of conditions, that in a safe, gentle way that you absolutely should. With Sophie, who I mentioned, she said she started by she was bedbound and she just had a can of soup that she would lift up and down, a couple times a day. And then the next day she'd try and do it one more time. So the word exercise can paint the wrong picture. We're talking about movement. We're talking about gradually increasing activity while gradually rewiring our brain to show that all of this is okay. And if you found this video helpful, I'm going to link another one here on the screen that I think you'll also like. It's how to do somatic tracking. So it's another brain training sort of activity where you learn to have a different relationship with your symptoms and not react to them in fear and slowly start to reduce them. And if you got value out of this video, I invite you to consider subscribing and also let me know in the comments, what kind of topics would you like to see me cover here? You also have the option now to become a channel member. So you can support the channel and get perks and rewards and information that no one else has access to. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all of your support. Whatever you're going through, sending you a massive hug right now. I know that you've got this. Please don't give up. Please keep searching, keep trying until you find what works for you. I've talked to so many people who were sick for decades, incredibly sick, thinking that there was just no path out, and then they eventually did find it. So know that you've totally got this. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it, and I hope to see you in this next one.